The stranger spit on me, while the court made him pay. It happened on what should have been a perfectly ordinary afternoon. I was in line at a local deli, the kind of place where the smell of fresh bread mixes with the tang of mustard and the hum of soft jazz on the radio. My order was simple, turkey on rye, but my patience was already worn thin from a long workday. That's when he arrived, a man maybe late 40s, barged straight to the front of the line as if the rest of us were invisible. At first I told myself to let it go. Maybe he was in a rush, maybe he didn't notice. But when he slammed his order down with a grunt and waved his hand like a king dismissing peasants, my resolve cracked. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "There's a line. We've all been waiting." He turned slowly, eyes narrowing as if I had committed some grave offense against him. Then, without a word, he leaned forward and spat directly on me. The deli went silent. Conversations cut off, the clatter of the slicer paused. Even the radio seemed quieter. I stood frozen, feeling the warm disgust spread across my cheek and shirt. The man sneered, muttered a slur under his breath, and gave me a shove with his shoulder as if daring me to retaliate. My body shook, not just with anger but with the humiliation of it all. That's when I noticed the small black dome in the corner ceiling, the security camera. In that moment, a seed of resolve planted itself inside me. I wasn't going to shout back or start a fight in the deli. No, I was going to do something worse, hold him accountable. I quietly pulled out my phone and snapped a picture of his retreating back, then one of the camera overhead. I already knew what I would do. The employees rushed over, one of them whispering, "We got that on tape. Don't worry." My heart pounded. My shirt was stained. People were staring, but for the first time since the spit hit my skin, I felt control creeping back. That night, I filed a police report. I kept my shirt in a plastic bag. I wrote everything down, word for word. But when the court date finally arrived, and I walked into the small, echoing courtroom, I froze again. He was there, smirking, confident, leaning back like this was a joke. His lawyer shuffled papers with casual arrogance. The judge hadn't entered yet. And in that terrifying moment, I thought, what if the footage is gone? What if nobody cares? What if it's just my word against his? The clerk called the case. I swallowed hard. And then, what would you have done in that moment? Fight back in the deli, or take it all the way to court? I'd love to see your answer in the comments. The clerk's voice echoed across the quiet courtroom as my case was called. My palms were damp, my throat dry. I kept replaying that moment in the deli. His smirk, the spit, the shove, and now here we were, face to face in front of a judge. He sat at the defense table like he owned the room. His posture leaned back, hands folded, lips curled in that same smirk I'd seen before. He whispered something to his lawyer, who chuckled as if the whole ordeal were beneath them. When the judge finally entered, black robe flowing, expression stern, I felt the air in the room shift. Everyone rose, then sat again, the wooden benches creaking beneath the weight of silence. The prosecutor introduced the case. Assault, harassment, and disorderly conduct. Simple words, but they carried the weight of my entire humiliation. Then came my turn to testify. Walking to the witness stand felt like walking a tightrope. I clutched the railing, swore the oath, and tried not to let my voice shake. The prosecutor asked me to recount the incident. I told everything: how he cut in line, how I spoke up, how he spat on me, and how he shoved me like I was trash in his way. The defense attorney rose slowly. "So you're telling us," he began, drawing out each word, "that my client spat on you in public in front of all those witnesses, and yet you didn't retaliate? You didn't even raise your voice." He leaned forward. "Are you sure you didn't provoke him first?" My stomach clenched. I wanted to scream, but instead I spoke clearly. "No, I didn't provoke him, and I didn't retaliate, because I knew the cameras were watching." That got a murmur from the courtroom. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. The defense attorney tried to mask his surprise but faltered. "Cameras?" he asked, trying to sound dismissive. "Yes," I said. "The deli has security cameras. I asked the manager for a copy that same day. It's time-stamped. It shows everything." For the first time, his smirk wavered. The prosecutor handed the DVD to the bailiff, who loaded it into the old courtroom player. The grainy footage filled the monitor. Me standing in line, the man barging forward, my calm gesture, his sudden spit, the shove, the look of disgust on my face. The room shifted. I heard gasps, even a whispered, "Oh my God." The judge leaned forward, jaw tightening. Then came the slurs. The microphone near the counter had picked them up faintly, but clearly enough to make the courtroom fall into an even heavier silence. The defense attorney scrambled. "Your Honor, context matters. Context." The judge cut in, voice sharp. "The context is an unprovoked assault, recorded on video. Please don't insult this court's intelligence." My heart surged with relief. The footage had spoken louder than I ever could, but it wasn't over yet. The prosecutor presented my evidence: the plastic bag with my stained shirt, the photos of my cheek, the police report filed that very night. Every detail lined up, piece after piece, until the man's smug facade cracked. His hands clenched. His lawyer whispered frantically. Finally, it was his turn to speak. He shuffled to the stand, cleared his throat, and spun a story about misunderstanding, about me being aggressive, about him feeling threatened. But the footage sat like a silent witness, contradicting every word. The prosecutor's cross-examination was brutal. "Threatened? By what? Someone telling you there's a line? Threatened enough to spit, shove, and slur?" The lawyer held up the paused footage, me standing still, calm, reasonable, him leaning forward, spitting. The lies crumbled. When closing arguments ended, the judge's voice rang clear. "Guilty. Assault, harassment, and public misconduct." The sentence wasn't jail time. It rarely is for cases like this, but it hit where it mattered. He was fined heavily, ordered to attend anger management, and most humiliating of all, forced to issue a court-ordered written apology to me. As he scribbled the words under the watchful eye of the bailiff, his face burned red. The apology was cold, forced, but it was mine to keep. Proof that I had stood up, fought back and won. Walking out of that courtroom, the air felt lighter. People nodded at me, strangers who had just watched justice unfold. My shirt was ruined, but my dignity wasn't. I had my name cleared, my truth validated, and his arrogance shattered. It struck me then. Some people only learn civility from a judge. And maybe, just maybe, the next time he thought about spitting on someone, he'd remember the cameras, the courtroom, the fine, and the apology he had to choke out. As for me, I didn't just win the case. I won back the part of myself he tried to take with that one disgusting act. If you were in my shoes that day, would you have walked away or fought all the way to court? Drop your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear your take.